Hello friends, today you and I are going to practice adding using partial sums. So let's go watch our visual learning video to see what that looks like.
Find 518 plus 327. Use place value. First, add the hundreds. Then add the tens. Then add the ones. How many hundreds, tens, and ones are in 518? How many hundreds, tens, and ones are in 327? There are 5 hundreds, 1 10, and 8 ones in 518. There are 3 hundreds, 2 tens, and 7 ones in 327. First, find the partial sums. What are partial sums? Partial sums are the sum of the hundreds, the sum of the tens, and the sum of the ones. You find them by adding hundreds to hundreds, tens to tens, and ones to ones. 500 plus 300 equals 800. 10 plus 20 equals 30. 8 plus 7 equals 15. The partial sums are 800, 30, and 15. Next, add the partial sums to find the sum. 800 plus 30 plus 15 equals 845. So, 518 plus 327 equals 845. Why does adding the partial sums help you find the total sum?
Adding the partial sums helps us find the total sum because then we know the total of the hundreds, the total of the tens, and the total of the ones, and we just have to add them together to find the total sum.
Both addends are made up of hundreds, tens, and ones. So, when you add the sums of the hundreds, tens, and ones, you find the sum of all the parts of the addends.
Using partial sums makes adding big numbers easier.
Let's try it. It says click on the hundreds, tens, or ones to see partial sums. So I'm going to click on the hundreds.
500 plus 300 equals 800.
That's the partial sum for the hundreds.
10 plus 20 equals 30.
That's the partial sum for the tens.
8 plus 7 equals 15.
Which is the partial sum for the ones.
You can write out the addition like this. What do you notice about the way the digits are in columns?
We have to make sure that we keep the digits lined up in the ones, tens, and hundreds. For example, if you look at the number 15, the 5 is still in the ones column, and then the 10 got put in the tens column as a 1.
The digits are lined up by place value, hundreds, tens, and ones. Why is it important to keep the hundreds, tens, and ones in columns?
If we don't keep them in the right columns, then we'll get our numbers mixed up and we won't get the right answer.
When the digits are lined up in columns, it makes it easy to keep track of the value of the digits and find the partial sums. Now you know how to add using partial sums.
Let's do some practice together in those workbooks. Okay, we are starting on page 604 in our workbook. So if you need to pause me to go get your workbook and a pencil, do that now. And then when you're ready, we'll go ahead and start with these two problems. It says add, use partial sums, and show your work. Use place value blocks if needed. So that's something if you want to draw those, you're more than welcome to. Our problem is 425 plus 148. And notice they've lined them up for us on top in standard form by stacking up the numbers. The ones over the ones, the tens over the tens, and the hundreds over the hundreds. Now we need to do the partial sums. We're going to start with the hundreds first. So we have 400 plus 100. Well, 4 plus 1 is 5. So our partial sum for the hundreds is 500. And I'm going to write it out like this. So I have my numbers in the hundreds, tens, and ones columns. Now we're going to find the partial sum for the tens. We have 2 tens plus 4 tens. Well, 2 plus 4 is 6, so our partial sum for the tens is 60. And then we have to do our ones. We have 5 plus 8. Well, I know 5 plus 8 is 13, which is 1 10 and 3 ones. So that's our partial sum for the ones. Now, this is the most important step. We have to add these up. So 0 plus 3 is 3 ones. 0 tens plus 6 tens plus 1 10 is 7 tens. And we just have 5 hundreds. So the answer to 425 plus 148 is 573. It's a really great way to show our work because then we can see exactly how to solve it. Let's try with number 2. Notice they're not using the chart anymore. The chart is a great way to show us how to do it, but when we actually do it on our papers, we can just stack them up like this and we don't have to draw a big chart every time we want to solve a problem. So let's do it. We're going to do the hundreds first. So 300s plus 200 would be 500, and I'm going to write it out just like I did on the other problem. So 500s, 0 tens and 0 ones, because that's what 500 is. That's my partial sum of the hundreds. Now let's do the tens. We have 9 tens plus 7 tens. What's 9 plus 7? 16, so that's 16 tens, which is 160. So there's 100, 6 tens, and 0 ones in 160. And then we have 4 ones plus 6 ones. 4 plus 6 is 10, so 1 10, 0 ones. And now I'm going to draw another line because we have another addition problem that we just made inside of our problem. And that is all of our partial sums that we have to add up. So 0 plus 0 plus 0 is 0 ones. 6 tens plus 1 10 is 7 tens. And 500 plus 100 is 600. So that means our answer to 394 plus 276 is 670. Using partial sums can be kind of tricky. It just takes some practice. Let's go watch another short video to see somebody else do it again.
Look at this addition problem. Wow, that looks like a lot to add, huh? But we can make this a whole lot easier. How? Let's use partial sums. Here's what I mean. Just use place value. First, add the hundreds, then the tens, and finally the ones. So first, the hundreds. 400 plus 200 equals 600. Now the tens. 20 plus 10 equals 30. Lastly, the ones. 6 plus 7 equals 13. We now have 3 partial sums, 600, 30, and 13. Now, just add it all together. 600 plus 30 plus 13 is 643. So 426 plus 217 equals 643. We did it! This problem looked so hard at first, but using partial sums made it really easy.
Okay, let's keep practicing in our workbook. Let's turn that page. Okay, let's do number 3 together. It's the same thing, you guys. We just don't have the chart. So just like our last problem that we did. We have 347 plus 242. We're going to add up the hundreds first. I have 300s plus 200, which is 500s. Going to write it out in all the correct columns, nicely and neatly lined up. That is super important for this. Make sure you're keeping it in line. If you need to draw lines like this to help you start to keep them in line, that's fine, but make sure that you're keeping them lined up in the correct place value. Then we have our tens. We have 4 tens plus 4 tens, which would be 8 tens. So 8 tens, 0 ones is 80. And then we need to do our partial sums for our ones. 7 plus 2 is 9, so just 9 ones. Now we're going to add these up again. So 0 plus 9 is 9 ones. 0 plus 8 is 8 tens. And we just have 500s. So our answer is 589. Easy peasy. Go ahead, friends, try number 4, take your time, and then come back to me when you think you've solved it, and I'll help you and we'll double check. You ready? You paused me, you did it? Okay. We have 193 plus 243. I have 100 plus 200 equals 300. That's my partial sum for my hundreds. Then I have 9 tens plus 4 tens. 9 plus 4 is 13, so that would be 130. And then in my ones, I have 3 plus 3, which equals 6. Now I'm going to add these up. 0 plus 0 plus 6 is just 6 ones. 0 plus 3 tens is just 3 tens. And then I have 3 hundreds plus 100, which is 4 hundreds. So my answer is 436. Let's do number 6 together. I'm going to start with the hundreds, do my partial sums. I have 3 hundreds plus 4 hundreds. 3 plus 4 is 7, so that's 700. In my tens, I have 6 tens plus 2 tens, which is 8 tens, or 80. And then I have 7 ones plus 3 ones, which is 10. So I'm going to put a 1 in the tens place and a 0 in the ones column, just like that, keeping it in its place value. Now I'm going to add up my partial sums. 0 plus 0 plus 0 is 0 ones. 8 tens plus 1 10 is 9 tens. And then I just have 7 hundreds. So my answer is 790. Do you see how quick it is? Even though we're adding up such big numbers, we can do these really quickly when we use partial sums. Go ahead and try number 7 all by yourself. Pause me, do the whole thing by yourself, and then come back once you're completely done, and I'll help you check it. Okay. We have 508 plus 347. So I see 500 plus 300. My partial sum for my hundreds is 800. And then I have 0 tens plus 4 tens, which is just 4 tens for my partial sum. And then in the ones, I have 8 plus 7, which equals 15. So that's my partial sum for my ones. Now I'm going to add these up. 0 plus 0 plus 5 is 5 ones. 0 plus 4 plus 1 is 5 tens. And then I have 8 hundreds. So my answer is 855. Did you get it right? Nicely done. It just takes some practice, but it's pretty quick once you get it down. We're going to go down to the bottom of the page and do number 9. Okay, let's read number 9. It says, find the sum of 137 plus 324. Then write the sum 2 different ways. So first we need to solve the problem, and then we're going to write it out in 2 different ways like we've learned in the past. So let's go ahead and set up our problem. To set up a problem for partial sums, you need to take your 2 numbers and stack them on top of each other in the standard form. So 137 plus 324. And you need to make sure whenever you're doing addition or subtraction that you nice and neatly line up your ones, your tens, and your hundreds. Now we're ready to do our partial sums. Pretty easy. So let's do our hundreds first. 100 plus 300 is 400. 3 tens plus 2 tens is 5 tens, or 50. And then in my ones, I have 7 plus 4, which equals 11. So 1 10 and 1 1. And now I just need to add these up. 0 plus 0 plus 1 is 1. 5 tens plus 1 10 is 6 tens. And then I just have 4 hundreds. So my answer is 461. Now we already have the number written out in standard form. Remember, that's what this is called, is standard form, the way that we normally write out our numbers. Okay, let's write it out in word form and expanded form. So let's do the expanded form first. Do you remember how we break apart expanded form? We break it into the hundreds, the tens, and the ones. So how many hundreds do we have? We have 4 hundreds. So we're going to say 400 plus, how many tens do we have? 6. So 60 plus, how many ones? We have just 1. So expanded form would be 400 plus 60 plus 1. That'd be the same as writing out 461. Now we're going to write it out in word form as well. So remember, practicing how to spell these is really important, so that way you can write them out. Really important if you're doing word form, of course. So we're going to say 400 and then 60. I like to put a little dash here, 64. Or sorry, not 64. What am I talking about? 61. Always got to double check your work. So our word form is 461. We've written it out in 2 ways, and then we did the 3rd way with our standard form down here. We're going to turn the page, and you're going to do one last problem. Let's read number 10 together, and then you're going to solve it. 349 people are on a boat. 255 people are on another boat. How many people are on both boats? Both. Are we adding or subtracting? We are adding because we have one boat with a bunch of people. We have another boat with a bunch of people. We want to know how many altogether. So go ahead and set up your problem with addition and do partial sums to try and solve it. And then pause me and come back when you think you have your answer, and I will help you double check your partial sums work. You already did all that work? Okay, let's double check it. I have to write mine out, so I'm going to stack them up. And I'm going to do mine right up here so that way I have plenty of space. 349 plus 255. Notice how careful I'm being when I'm lining up my place values. There we go, that's better. Okay, so I have 300 plus 200, which is 500. And then I have 4 tens plus 5 tens, which is 9 tens, or 90. And then I have 9 ones plus 5 ones, which is 14. So 1 10 and 4 ones. Now I'm going to add up my partial sums. So 0 plus 0 plus 4 is 4. 0 plus 9 plus 1 is 10 tens. What is 10 tens? That's 100. So guess what? We have to regroup. I'm going to put a 0 in the tens place, and I'm going to add a 100 in my hundreds column. And now I'm going to add up the hundreds. 5 hundreds plus 100 equals 6 hundreds. So that means there are 604 people between the two boats. Fantastic work, friends. You are crushing it this week. Nicely done. Let's check out your homework. Okay, you are going to go back into your workbook, or stay in it because you probably already have it open, and do the problems 5, 8, 11, and 13 for some more practice, and then go do your quick check. And after that, spend some time on MathFacts Pro practicing your addition and subtraction, so that way when we get to bigger and bigger numbers, it gets easier and easier. If you're in my class, today would be a great iReady day. I will see you again back here tomorrow, friends.